What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
We're here. Two things, actually. Number one, they just announced that there is a federal judge who just released or said, your guys' gag order is done on the Kohberger files. So it'll take a hot minute for them to actually make them public and like for people to see. But it has officially been said that they can no longer be placed under a gag order. So they should be here sooner than later. They should be released to the public for public viewing, which I am excited to check those out. Not excited because I think it's, good. I'm excited because I want to know what they talked about. And then the second thing is the Epstein files. It came out supposedly that there's not actually an Epstein list, which people believe or not believe. I'm honestly mixed on it because I have my own personal views on the whole scenario.
Well, first of all, I still don't think Epstein's actually dead.
I don't either.
So
I don't either.
My number
well,
one.
actually, I don't even know. I kind of think there's a chance that he was killed. I don't think that he's alive. I think he was murdered. I think I definitely in no way, shape, or form think he committed suicide. I think that was complete false. However, the one side that I'm like, well, I could see there not being an Epstein list is because during this whole and last 4 years, 5 years that we've been dealing with the Epstein stuff, during that time, Donald Trump was running to be president, and there was a lot of things being brought out into the public about him. Now, the Biden administration at any point could have released the Epstein list, but they never did. That to me tells me, because the claims are that Donald Trump is on this list. And a lot of people right now are saying, they're saying there's no list because Donald Trump is on the list. And I'm saying, if that's true, don't you think they would have released it 2 years ago, a year ago when he was running for president? Because that would have solidified that there's no way.
Well, they fucking
hell.
said that.
And so it's one of those things that I sit there and I'm just like, if there really was a list at any point, anybody could have released it. Anybody. And of course, the big thing is people right now are saying that the reason why there's no list is because Donald Trump is hiding it. I could understand that, except for if he's really on this list that supposedly exists, why was it not released over the last 4 years when they knew he was running for presidency, right? Like that would have been a nail in his coffin of being a president. No, most people would not vote for him if he was on this Epstein list. The other part of it is, I don't know if there's a list. However, beyond that, I just read, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that Donald Trump told the Justice Department, so the Justice Department of the United States, that they need to release the Epstein transcripts from his grand jury trial. And what that means is that right now they've been sealed. You can't view them. But what he's saying, go ahead. I want you to basically release every single bit of information that we as a court of the United States have. And Epstein was put into a grand jury trial to see if he even had enough shit to be pressed charges against him, right? And those are sealed. And Donald Trump just instructed the Justice Department to file for them to be released to the public. So to me, if there's no Epstein list, and if Donald Trump is not on, if Donald Trump is on this supposed list, would you not think that he would not want them to release the transcripts from his trial?
Right.
Now, I am not a Donald Trump fan. I'm not saying I believe him. I'm saying I think that there is a very possible chance that there is actually no list. They released the flight log a long time ago, which was a 500-page document that had listed people who were flying to Epstein's Island. But I don't think that there probably is not an actual list of just pedophiles. That would be a weird thing for somebody to keep. So I don't know if that actually exists. And now, of course, according to the Justice Department, there is not one. And so in turn, it has been supposedly it's being pushed that the Epstein transcripts from his grand jury is going to be released. And so my hope is that in transparency that they do that, because then we as the people can read through it and see what exactly was presented. And you're not going to find all the evidence. But for instance, if there's an Epstein list in that grand jury, the prosecutors are going to bring up a list and they're going to say, one of the things that we have that we're going to use to prosecute Jeffrey Epstein is there is a list of people who are connected to pedophilia that he had, coming to his island. He kept a log or a dialogue or a list of people. That's going to be in those transcripts if a list really does exist. And if a list does not exist, then they're not going to talk about a list in the grand jury transcript. So that would be a good way for us to figure it out. So those are two things that are going on that have to do with just like releasing things to the public. Because if I'm being honest, I feel like in the world that we live in,
I feel like every single case should be public record.
That's what I was just going to say is we, the people of our country.
We, the people, have the choice to view that shit or not.
Exactly.
So,
especially if you're going to a
junkies,
trial. If you're going to a trial, a jury trial, that shit should just be public. It should just be public record.
And especially the cases that are like national news coverage,
because people want to know.
Stuff. Yeah.
People want to, curiosity.
Not even national news, just news coverage.
Right.
Like the Brian Koberger stuff.
Right. Well, and as far as the Brian Koberger things go, I don't understand the gag order. I don't get the gag order. I think originally it was put in place because they were trying to secure
they fucked up in the beginning.
Well, I think they were trying to secure a good location. And by keeping a gag order, what the whole point of the gag order is so that nothing gets leaked to the public, so that when you have your jury come in, they're not like tainted jurors.
Because they're such a small town.
But that didn't work anyways. They had to try to ask for a different venue because it's Moscow. Moscow is such a small fucking community. There's no way you can hold a trial there.
Right.
You can't hold a trial in Pullman because again, it's right there. So it's like you're gonna have to change a venue anyways. But now that he's pled guilty, okay, great. Let us see the data. Let's see all the things. Let's see what he did. I'd love to know why. I'd still to this day love to know why. That's the one question.
Oh, apparently he still to this day has not said a reason.
Exactly.
As to why.
Exactly. And I just want to know why. I just want to know. And I think most people want to know, because why would you innocently... No, not innocently. Why would you kill 4 innocent college students? And honestly, why would you leave 2 out of the 6 in the household alive? Why? What was it that made you tick that way? And I'm hoping that someday we'll find the answers to that, but maybe we can figure it out by the things that they found in, the case or whatever. However, we're not here to talk about the current crimes, although what we're talking about today, Sierra will be happy, is another more current one.
Thank God.
She likes the current ones. I love the older ones. I think the older ones are fun to
I like the current ones because if they do some stupid bullshit, I can be like, we had technology. You can't give me that bullshit.
Well, this one's not going to go down like that. However, what are we talking about today? We are talking about a man named Joel Guy Jr. Now, this happened on November 26th, 2016. So we're talking 9 years ago.
Wow.
Now, Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy are murdered and dismembered in their home. This happened in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
And Joel Guy is held responsible. Joel Guy Jr. is held responsible. All right, so a little bit of background on this family. So Joel Guy Sr., he was a pipeline engineering designer, and he was married to Lisa Guy, and she was a human resources accounts payable administrator. Now, Joel and Lisa were actually set to retire before their death, and together, like they were ready to, naturally as people retire, they're similar ages. So they both retire, they move on, they live their life. They also had 4 children total. Joel had 3 daughters from a previous marriage, and then Joel and Lisa had their son, Joel Guy Jr., together. Now, the couple had recently sold their Knoxville, Tennessee home, and they were planning on retiring in East Tennessee. So they were like legit, like I think it was actually, they were only like a couple weeks away or maybe even a week away from retirement before they died. And they had sold their home. They had basically already started looking at new places to retire to in East Tennessee. And they had told their family, like, we're retiring and also we're going to be moving. So that's Joel Sr. and Lisa. Now, Joel Guy Jr., he was born March 13th, 1988. He had the 3 half sisters. Now, he also was referred to as Joel Michael because it was easier to differentiate him from his dad. Instead of saying like Joel Jr., Joel Sr., they would just
Joel
say
Michael Jr.
So they would say like, hey, Joel, and then hey, Joel Michael, and Joel Michael would be Joel Jr. Now, he graduated from Louisiana School for Math, Science, and Arts in 2006, and he also attended Hahnville High School. Now, he never held a job. Never, ever, 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 ever held a job. Now, he was always supported by his parents, and they paid for everything. So Joel Jr. was described as distant. He was described as an outsider by people that knew him. His own half-sisters described him as somebody who like rarely came out of his room. However, he was very smart. He wasn't like, it was just, he was very antisocial. Now, it was said that he never bothered to have any relationships with anybody outside, like not necessarily romantic relationships, but just in general, friendships, romantic relationships, even just little personal relationships with anybody outside of the home, and really nobody who lived in the home. He just didn't want to be having any personal whatevers with anybody. But it was stated that his mother doted on him. So she was really like, she wanted to take care of him all the time. She wanted to do everything for him. And it doesn't sound like he reciprocated. It sounds like he just was like, okay, whatever. Now, he did spend 1 semester at George Washington University, and then he goes on and he actually attends Louisiana State University. And when he goes to Louisiana State University, he actually moves to Baton Rouge, Louisiana as well at that same time. And it was said that he was actually in college to become a plastic surgeon. Now,
damn.
Yeah, again, he was very smart. It's not that he wasn't stupid or anything. Now, he ends up withdrawing from school in 2015, though. So he actually never finishes school, but
same here, buddy.
In 2015, he drops out. So if you're keeping track, I'm just going to point this out. If you're keeping track, he went to school for a total of about 8 years from the time he graduated till the time he stopped going to school.
Still never had a job.
He never graduated with a degree, and he never had a job in that whole entire time.
At least I have a job. I may not have graduated with a degree, but I got a job.
Well, most people do. Like most people, I don't think you have to have a degree to be a successful person. I'm actually somebody who has a college degree that is anti-college for most professions. I do not think that you need to have a job, or you don't need to have a college education for some jobs. I think for a plastic surgeon, you should obviously be going to school. You got to
the trades, like y'all make
not even the trades.
Money.
I'm talking like, I already know I'm going to ruffle feathers right now. I'm talking like, I don't think you need a business degree. I think they're pointless. I think communications degrees and marketing degrees are pointless. I think that even the degree your brother's going for, which is coding and computer science, pointless. And the reason I say that is because everything that you have to learn, you learn kind of on your own anyways. Your brother's going to school for a computer science degree, and the stuff he's learning by taking extra certification courses on his own that have nothing to do with the degree, because they're not specified to just coding. It's a computer science degree and he wants to code. So he doesn't actually need a degree. However, to get into the field, a computer science degree always looks better.
Right.
But I just don't think, I think it's a money grab for a lot of colleges. I think there are certain degrees, doctors, psychologists, scientists, those are, you probably need some degrees for those, but I think there's quite a few jobs in this world you don't need a degree for. And I mean, I have a degree, never used it. Your dad has a degree, doesn't use it. You don't have a degree and you have a good job. So you see what I'm saying? Like, you just don't have to have a degree. So I don't judge people who go to college for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years and don't ever get a degree. you can still live your life. So he had no excuse to not have a job. Just because he didn't get his plastic surgeon degree doesn't mean he can't have a job.
Right.
Now, he also did not pay for any of his college expenses. Every single thing he had was paid for by his parents, including his complete living expenses. So he lived in an apartment in Baton Rouge and his parents paid for that. They paid for his food, they paid for his college. And then when he dropped out of college, they continued to pay for all these things. And he still literally did nothing. And then he still lived in Baton Rouge. After he dropped out, he stayed in Baton Rouge. So his parents continued to pay for his living expenses, his apartment in Baton Rouge, after he dropped out of college. I am a very forgiving and helpful parent, but I will definitely not be paying for my 20-something-year-old child's living if they're not going to school. I mean, Sierra knows because when she was in college, she was not required to have a job. She went away to college. We paid for a lot of her tuition. She did get scholarships for athletics and academics, and she went to a very expensive school, so she did have to take out student loans, and we paid for stuff. Then we paid for her food the whole time she was there, her living expenses, and then finally it got to a point where she wanted to go out and do a bunch of stuff, and we were already paying so much that she got a job on campus. That was her choice, but she was not required to have a job. Our son, your brother, he is in school, so he is not required to have a job. But if your brother were to look at me and be like, I don't want to be in school anymore, go get your ass a job. And you're 22 years old. I'm not, you go get a job.
I feel like that's a fair trade-off.
Totally.
I know somebody who's going to school through my work, and then she's going to also the local community college. And on top of that, she has 2 jobs.
That's so crazy. Isn't that crazy?
And
to
she's
be honest,
baller.
My honest opinion on that, and this is not a dig at anybody, but I think it's very unfair to expect students to work full-time, let alone work 2 jobs. I think school is your job, right? If you want to work part-time, okay. Some people can handle it. Some people can't.
I think she's a big support system though for her family.
Which you have to have it. Because I
think she just turned 19.
See, because
I think she just turned 19.
When I went to school, 20. In the very, very beginning, I went to school because I actually did not have a job. And then in the middle of going to school, I worked part-time and went to school full-time. And then your dad went to school part-time and worked full-time. But there's no way you can go to school full-time and work 2 jobs and go to it's so much. And it's like, yes, you can do it. To be fair, you can. However, that's exhausting. And I know personally of somebody who literally graduated high school and their parents told them, you need to go to school and have a job. And this person did not do well in school because they couldn't handle both.
Right.
And I don't think that's a fair thing to do. I think everybody learns at their own pace. First of all, it's okay to want them to have a job, but a full-time job, a full 32 to 40 hours a week plus go to school full-time, that school alone takes up a lot of your time. It takes up a lot of your time. So in my mind, a school is a job. That's if you're in school, not high school, but if you're in college, that's a job. And if you can work on campus or work a weekend at like a Starbucks or something, sure, that gives you extra money. It also helps you pay for things at your school. But we're fortunate enough that we are able to pay for half of the tuitions of our kids. I could not afford to pay for the whole thing, but I at least can pay for half of it to minimize how much debt they take out for college because they want to go to college. So, but I would never force them to work on top of that. That's their choice. But in this scenario, Joel needed to get a job. He just needed to get a job. So now on November 24th, 2016, that was actually Thanksgiving Day. Okay, so Thanksgiving Day, like any other holiday, all 4 of the guys' children had come home for the visit because they all at this point knew the house had been sold. And they were like, let's have one last Thanksgiving meal in this house. My guess is that all the kids...
I'm guessing that's the house that they all grew up in. Even if they weren't born there, they at least grew up there.
Yes, and at least Joel probably was born and raised there.
Joel was probably born and raised there, but the other ones, they were young enough that they were like, this is my home.
Right. And it almost sounds like their kids didn't really know too far in advance, though, that they were selling their home. So it's almost like they sold it and then told the kids like, oh, by the way, we sold our house type thing. But it could totally be that they'd already planned it out or whatever. All the kids also, including Joel, the 3 sisters, and Joel, they all lived on their own though. So it's not like they sold this house out from underneath their kids, right? Like they were by themselves in this house. It was probably too big for them. They're moving on. And so they just were like, hey, let's all have one last happy Thanksgiving. They said, okay, no problem. Now, I am going to trigger warning you here because the descriptions of these murders are pretty fucking brutal. So please prepare yourself. If you do not want to hear the details of the murder, skip forward like a couple minutes and I'll be done talking about the actual murder. But again, it is actually pretty brutal. Bear with me. So on November 26th of 2016, so this is 2 days after Thanksgiving, all the girls had actually gone back home to their homes, and it was just Joel Sr., Lisa, and Joel Jr. still left in the house. Now, Lisa leaves to go grocery shopping for like a regular day. I mean, I feel
That's
like
weird. 2 days after Thanksgiving.
I know.
But,
You know what's funny? Okay, I thought that too. But let me explain really quick. The reason why we feel that's weird is because we do Thanksgiving and then we do second Thanksgiving
and
then we do third Thanksgiving.
Very rarely is there a fourth, but there have been in the past.
Because we buy so much food and then we never eat all of it. And then we literally take the Thanksgiving to eat, and then the next day after Black Friday shopping, we do a second Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the second Thanksgiving is always guaranteed.
It's always guaranteed, and that's when we play games.
Well, because the problem is, though, is we used to have like a lot of people for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we did.
And
we
like
used to have like 15,
now
20 people.
It's like hard, like you can fit at a normal fucking
well,
dinner
we
table.
did. This last year was the first time we did Thanksgiving completely by ourselves.
Oh hell no, never again. We already talked about that.
And to be honest with you, though, we did have a second and third Thanksgiving because our turkey was, and I don't eat turkey. So it was literally 3 people eating this turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I purposely made a little bit of extra food because it feeds you for 3 days.
Right.
So anyway, so that was weird.
You budget that into your grocery
you
shopping.
do. I thought that too. I was like, maybe we're just the only ones who do.
Maybe.
This.
I don't fucking know. When I told people at my work, I was like, oh,
I think people
we're
think
doing
it's weird.
Thanksgiving 2 and Thanksgiving 3. They're like looking at me like, the fuck you mean?
They're like, what's that mean? I mean,
Thanksgiving.
No. Thanksgiving goes on for at least 3 days in our family.
Literally.
So, which is fine. Whatever. And it's normally like turkey sandwiches and all that.
Yeah, by day 3 it's like turkey sandwiches and like the bare
and again we play games and we all just hang out. So anyways, but mind your business because that's our life. You do you. Anyway, so she goes grocery shopping. Well, while she's gone grocery shopping, Joel Jr. goes upstairs to where his father is, and his father is in their exercise room. Now, I'm going to just describe to you what the crime scene shows because nobody actually knows exactly what happened, right? But what it looks like is some sort of altercation happened. They don't know what exactly triggered it. They don't know how. But what they could tell is that in one of the rooms, the blinds were torn. There was an overturned Bowflex machine, and there was blood on the corners and like on the walls. So that it was kind of like a lot. You could see that it wasn't like somebody just walked in, killed him, and walked out. There was obviously like a fight. Joel Jr. stabs his father to death in the exercise room. He stabs him over 40 times. He pierces his lung, his liver, his kidneys, and several of his ribs were broken. Now, not too long after this incident occurs, Lisa actually comes home, and she enters the home through the front door, and she like drops the groceries like in the foyer area. Like, just, I don't even think she did it like because she was scared or anything. I think she put them down there to go get help with like either unloading some more groceries or having somebody help put the groceries away. When they came to the actual crime scene, they did see that there were still groceries on the floor, and she ends up going upstairs. Now, once she gets upstairs or as she's going upstairs, she's actually attacked by Joel as well, Joel Jr. And she is actually stabbed over 30 times and 9 of her ribs are severed. So he like is brutal as fuck. Now, after the attacks are over, Joel Jr. dismembers their bodies. He severs Joel Sr.'s hands. They were cut off at the wrists. His arms were severed at the shoulder blades. His legs were severed at the hips, and he also severed his right foot. And then Lisa was dismembered in a similar fashion, so she was completely dismembered. However, he also decapitated her as well. And he put her head in a pot on the stove. Now, Joel Jr. then puts the torsos of both Lisa and Joel Sr. into 2 45-gallon plastic containers. And now these containers supposedly had chemicals to help dissolve the bodies. And then he turns the thermostat up in the house to 90 degrees. For those of you who don't know, that is something that is used to try to speed up decomposition in bodies and fuck up the timeline of like
When they
a
died.
medical examiner trying to figure out when they actually died. Now, 4 days later, Lisa's boss starts to get worried because she had not shown up for work. She had not called in, which was super rare. They also found it the most suspicious that she did not even show up to her own retirement party. So her coworkers reach out to the Knoxville police and they say, hey, can you just go do a welfare check because this lady who works with us, she missed her own retirement party. She has not shown up to work. She has not called us. We have called her house. She's not answering. And so they send out a guy named Detective Stephen Ballard. He heads to the home. Now he knocks on the door. He rings the doorbell. There is no response. So he goes around to the back of the house, but the fence is locked to get back into the back of the house. So he gets on and he tells the dispatch, like, I've knocked, I've searched around the house. There's cars here, but there's no response. Like, I don't know what else to do. And they're like, all right, come back home. Because at that point, there's no like probable cause for anything. It's just like, oh, okay, like maybe they went out of town. Like, who knows? But there's nothing suspicious really. So about an hour after this, her coworkers call the Knoxville police again. And they say, listen, can you please like go, like kick in the door if you have to. This is bizarre. We've literally been calling her since you told us that nothing seems amiss. We are calling and she's not answering. We've called her phone. We've called her house phone. We've called her husband. Nobody's answering. We're really concerned. So this time, Detective Ballard and a guy named Detective Jeremy McCord, they actually go and head over to the guy's home again. Now, this time they look through the windows because they're like, okay, let's see if we can find anything. So when they look in the windows, they find that there are grocery bags on the floor. And they can see that in the grocery bags, they see beer and they see like lunch meats, like sandwich meats. And this triggers them to be like, okay, something's not right because these are perishable foods. These are foods that should be in the refrigerator. So right away, you kind of start going, well, why wouldn't you put those foods away? I mean, something has maybe happened. Maybe somebody got hurt. Maybe they fell. Something happened where they couldn't put away their cold food. So they start, looking around. They find no signs of forced entry. The cars are in the driveway. All the cars in the driveway are registered to Joel and Lisa. So nothing else seems weird, but this fact that they can see these groceries in the floor is kind of weird. So the officers actually end up getting into one of the cars. So they're actually like checking the garage, and I believe the garage door was open or something. And so they were able to get in, and one of the cars was unlocked, and they were able to open up the car, and it had a garage door opener. Oh, I guess they didn't go in the garage. Were able to get into a car that had a garage door opener, and they click the garage door opener. The garage door opens, and that's how they get into the house. Now, again, by this point, it's probable cause because something is very wrong. Now, upon entering, they realize this house is hot as fuck. The first thing they realize is, holy shit, it's hot as hell in here. The next, they see the stove is on, which they find very concerning. And there's a really strange, overbearing chemical smell throughout the whole entire house. Like, something is definitely not right. Now, immediately, they are like, we got to search this house. Something is crazy here. So they head upstairs, and as they're walking up the stairs, they actually notice large amounts of blood throughout the house. Now, they end up first thing they find is Joel's hands in what looked like a prayer position on the floor. And then they see 2 large tubs with chemicals and human remains. Those end up being Joel Sr. and Lisa's remains. They immediately call for backup at this point, and they're like, we need to start an investigation. These people have been murdered, and they have been brutally fucking murdered. So they first thing they do is they look into Joel and Lisa's backgrounds to see if maybe they owed somebody money, which like, I know that sounds weird, but like for reals, like think about mob hits and shit.
I would say that's like some mob shit.
Right. Like you never know. And so they look at that. They also look like, were there some sort of domestic issues between them? Was there maybe an affair type situation? Like, what is going on? What they also discover in the house, as they're searching through the house, they actually discover a backpack, and inside the backpack is a notebook. Now, this notebook actually details the plans to kill Joel Sr. and Lisa. It is found near where Joel Jr. had been staying, like in his room. Now, it specifically talks about how he planned to kill them, how he was going to dispose of them. For instance, he said, get killing knives. He also said flush chunks down toilet. Like he actually had it detailed to a T. It also talked about maybe using a potential flood to erase evidence and to cover up the crime scene. Now, he also talks about setting up an automated text message that would come from his mother on Sunday to prove to him. So a text message from his mom to him that would be automated to automatically text out, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Oh, yeah. People do that for like people's birthdays so that they don't forget their birthdays.
Genuinely was like, what? We can do that?
Yeah.
And it was to prove that he was in Baton Rouge and she was supposedly still alive. So his whole point was, if she texted me on Sunday and I'm in Baton Rouge, they'll be able to see. Yeah, I couldn't do it. Now, since they find all this evidence, they're like, we need to figure out where this Joel Jr. is. We need to figure out who he is. We need to talk to him. They end up arresting him only one day after the bodies are discovered. But you got to remember, that's 5 days after they were killed.
Right.
Now, once he's in custody, he actually, of course, pleads not guilty. And it was also said that he actually said, I'm not guilty. I didn't do this. However, if you're going to charge me and I get convicted, please just give me the death penalty. That's what he said.
Weird.
To which his own defense team was like, yeah, we're not filing papers to ask for the fucking death penalty. And they also decided they were going to present no defense because he gave them no defense for him. Like he had nothing to give to them that would like make him not look like he did this. Now the DA and the prosecuting attorney also said, yeah, no, we're not going to try to get the death penalty for him, even though it is premeditated. I think the reason they chose not to do death penalty is because he asked for it.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So it was like, oh, you want to go to the death? You want to do? Nope. See you later. Now it is discovered during the trial that his motive for the murders was money. He had been under the impression that if both of his parents were gone, that he would be their beneficiary of their assets to the tune of like $500,000. And it was said that what triggered this was that his parents had talked to him not too long before he killed them about how they were no longer going to be able to support him because they were retiring and they were going to be, you know, people who retire, you typically live on like a budget. And their budget did not include taking care of their 28-year-old son, by the way. He was fucking 28.
Wow.
Like, what the hell? So they basically told him, like, you're going to have to get a job. Like, you're going to have to do something because we can't do this. And so that kind of triggered him to be like, well, fuck those guys. They're not going to take care of me. And so then he writes this whole thing. And I mean, it's pretty creepy. I saw pictures of the actual notebook and it's like pages and pages of notes and like drawings and like all these things that explains how he wants to kill his parents. And his thought was, well, if I kill them both, then I will make sure, or I'll get, all their money and I'll get their assets and I can sell their house and their boat and their cars and get all this money. The other thing that he had actually, one of the plans that he had, which I'm sitting here trying to figure out how the fuck this would have worked. One of his ideas though, was to try to make it look like a murder-suicide. And I'm sitting there going,
you wouldn't have been able to do that if you dismembered both fucking bodies, dumbass.
But what he was thinking is he was trying to make it, well, he was going to kill them. And then when he left, so he left them there to decompose faster, right? And I think what his idea is that he was going to have the bodies decompose and then he was going to come back and he was going to start a fire in the house. And then by the time the fire department would have come there, like it'd be burning.
They still would have been dismembered.
We know that, but somebody like him clearly didn't understand that you can't dismember the body. Be like, it was murder suicide. Like that's not how it works. But he was trying
to dismember my own body.
I know, like I don't quite understand that
and live through it.
But that was one of his thoughts because he wanted to basically make it seem like his father killed his mother and then killed himself and then set the house on fire and then died, and then that way it would be no suspicion on him. That was one of the other things that he had planned on. Another thing they had used in his trial was the fact that he actually had received a cut on his hand when he was getting into the altercation with his dad. So that was another piece of evidence because he could not explain where the cut came from. And so that was another piece between his notebook and the fact that it was in his room and the fact that it was in his backpack. And then the fact that he had a cut on his hand and he was the last one to be seen or to be left basically with his family. All the fingers pointed to him. Now his trial actually only lasted 4 days. And he is found guilty. He is found guilty of 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of abuse of a corpse, and he is sentenced to 2 life sentences. So he doesn't get the death penalty. He gets 2 life sentences. So in April of 2023, Joel Jr. actually files an appeal. And this centers around, get this shit, this centers around the idea that the police had no legal grounds to search the property without a warrant, because they needed to ask his permission because he technically was staying in the room and he technically lived there temporarily and was a guest in the home temporarily. And so therefore, the police were not allowed to enter the home without asking permission of the people, because I guess the thought process behind
But I didn't think that you needed to ask permission if they weren't actively in the home, because he wasn't in the home.
But okay, correct. But their point,
and the 2 that lived there.
Well,
were
and
dead, so
you're
they didn't
correct.
answer.
But my thing is, I'm sitting there going, but what's the point of probable cause, right? Like when you talk about probable cause,
or even just welfare checks at that point.
Well, welfare checks are knock, 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 knock. Is anybody there? Knock, knock, knock. That's all they can do. Mm-hmm. However, if you go to a welfare check and the door has blood on the handle, that's probable cause to kick the door in and go see what's going on. So their probable cause was the fact that there was groceries that were sitting out that should never have been sitting out. They should not be left on the floor. They should have been in a refrigerator. So for them, that was the only thing though that looked different, that looked out of place. And so I can see where his lawyers were trying to go with it, right? Because they're saying, oh,
because
okay,
they could argue and just be like, well, maybe they just forgot to put those groceries away.
Or maybe they had just gotten home and they were in the middle of doing something. I can see
give multiple reasons.
Yes, I can see where they were going with it. And it's a little scary to think that they could actually get off in a technicality like that. So he appeals that. And the court actually takes his appeal and reads it over and says, yeah, no thanks. Sorry, you actually killed your parents. So no, we're not even going to entertain this. He is, as of now, he still has his 2 life sentences and he is actually serving his time at the Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville, Tennessee. And the sisters, I did not dig into their names or anything. There was a couple articles that had their names in them. I'm not doing that. Cause you all know how I feel about that. I don't like to share a lot of the victim information, the victim's family's information. Cause a lot of those times they don't want to keep being bothered or reliving it. But I did see that one of the sisters had said something like they have to live with the fact that their brother did that, their brother did this type stuff, which I totally, this story actually was really creeped me out. And what really creeps me out is that my son is the one who sent me this story.
Bro, do you got something to tell us? Because what the fuck?
Yeah, your brother
I don't live here anymore, so...
Your brother literally was like, here's an episode for you and Sierra to do. And I was like, oh yeah. And then I started researching. I was like, what the fuck? Son, are we trying? What are we doing here? Sir, are you trying to tell me something? But anyways, so that is the story of Joel Guy Jr., the man who murdered and decapitated his own parents because they weren't going to continue to pay for his lazy ass at the age of 28 years old.
I'm going to have a talk with your son after this.
Can you believe? I mean, it was a good research. It was a good read. And I never had heard about this, obviously. So when I can find ones that are not super popular for everybody to know, I love that.
Yeah, but how did he find it? He's not a crime junkie.
TikTok. It was on TikTok.
We're going to have a conversation.
He sent it to me on TikTok and I was like, yeah. And then I was just like, oh my God. All I kept thinking was, he's 22 years old and he's living in my house. He's not lazy though. He is in school, but what are we trying to say here? This is weird. No, I'm just kidding. He's not psycho. Well, I don't know. Maybe he is.
He's your child. He's psycho.
That could very well be true. I'm just really good at not wanting to kill somebody, but it's fine. Anyways, yeah. So if you like these kind of things, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that you have listened to, please like us, share us. You guys are already doing a good job of sharing us, obviously, because we continue to get lots of new downloads and new people listening to us, and we appreciate you on every level. And that's pretty much all we want to say is just a big fat thank you for supporting us in everything that we do. And other than that, I want to say thank you for listening to me tell you this story about the man who killed his parents because he was lazy and wanted their money and didn't want to have to work for it. Till next time, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.